good is your knowledge of the memory topic for AQA A-Level Psychology? Let's find out. Today we're going to look at the multi-store model of memory. In the exam, it is totally acceptable for you to do a drawing of the diagram of the multi-store model of memory, just as long as you effectively label it to pick up all the marks. So remember, this is based on cognitive psychology, and so we're using this model to demonstrate what happens in our memory. Initially, we will have an input from the environment, and this will come in through our senses into the sensory store. The second store is the short-term memory store, and then the final store is our long-term memory store. First thing to be aware of is that if information isn't rehearsed or paid attention to, then it will decay from the memory stores. This means that information physically disappears. We also have something called displacement in short-term memory. This is where we push out old information so that we have space for the new information, so capacity. Information to pass from the sensory memory to the short-term memory, we need to pay attention to it. To keep it in our short-term memory, we need to do something called maintenance rehearsal. And then for it to go from short-term to long-term memory, we do something called elaborative rehearsal. Maintenance rehearsal is basically repetition. That's the process of verbally or mentally repeating information, which allows us to extend the duration of short-term memory beyond 30 seconds. Elaborative rehearsal involves the process of linking new information in some sort of meaningful way with information already stored in our long-term memory. Be aware that exam questions can also focus on coding, duration, and capacity of memory. So let's have a look at those next. First of all, coding refers to the way that information is transformed into a format that can be stored and retrieved from memory. Coding in the sensory memory is modality specific. This means according to the sense that it comes in from. Short-term memory is coded acoustically, so how it sounds, and long-term memory is coded semantically according to meaning. Next up is capacity. So this is how much information each one can hold. So for sensory memory, this is very high. For short-term memory, we say 5 to 9 items or chunks, and long-term memory, we say potentially unlimited. And then lastly, we need to know duration, which is the length of time that we can hold information in each store. And so for sensory memory, this is very quick, less than half a second. For short-term memory, we say less than 30 seconds. On average, it's about 18 seconds. And then for long-term memory, it's potentially up to a lifetime. So you could get a question just on the multi-store model of memory where you could talk about anything that I've just covered, or you might get a question that purely focuses on coding, capacity and duration. You can also get short answer questions about studies into coding, capacity or duration, so make sure you know some of those.